Now we're here going to look at a feature of After Effects called the Wiggler, which always cracks me up because for some reason I always picture that being like a long lost arch nemesis in the old Batman 60s show, like beware the Wiggler, he'll give you such a wiggling. So going back to our text here, I have this same text that I had left over from our section on motion sketch. You won't have this in your exercise files. You don't really need this text to follow along. Just go ahead and click the T for the type tool and just click and type your text. And then click the black arrow to accept it. But what I'm going to talk about here, again, is the Wiggler. The Wiggler allows us to just create random values for properties. Let's say we wanted this horror text to flicker its opacity in a really horrifying way. So almost every frame would have a random opacity value. Can you imagine how long that would take? But if you're using the Wiggler, it takes about 2 seconds. So let's go ahead and I'm going to select horror, hit the letter T to reveal opacity. Next, I'm going to go to the window menu and select the Wiggler. Now, the first thing we need to do is set a couple keyframes here for opacity. I'll just keep it at 100% and then play around with it to just a little bit lower than that. Now, let's click on the word opacity to select all of its keyframes, and then the Wiggler springs to life. We could do nothing until we select a few keyframes here. We basically have two parameters that are really important to this effect: the frequency here and the magnitude. In other words, how often it wiggles and how much it wiggles. So let's just keep the default settings and see what it looks like when we click apply. Look at all those keyframes it added for us. Now I'm going to hit the home key as I preview this. Not much variation really. I'll tell you what, I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. And thankfully, the Wiggler is like one action. So when you undo that, it undoes all of the keyframes, not just the last ones. You don't have to hit Control Z or Command Z millions of times to undo every single keyframe. It's kind of convenient. Now I'm going to deselect these keyframes. I'm going to take this second keyframe to 0%. So now we have a range here going from 100% to 0%. Now let's click on the word opacity to select all of its keyframes, and I'm going to click apply. Now let's preview that. But as we play this back, you'll find that it really doesn't do too much. So let's hit Control Z to undo that one more time. Now let's take the magnitude up a little bit. Now let's change the noise type from smooth to jagged. Now let's take up the frequency from 5 times a second to maybe around 15 times per second. Now let's click apply. Now let's hit the home key. Now as we preview this, there we go. Now we're starting to get a little bit more of that horror flickering, especially towards the end there. Very cool. So as I scrub this here, you see the text just kind of fades in and fades out in a horrific, scary way. Next, we're going to talk about another similar panel that helps us called the Smoother, which will allow us to smooth out our motion. That's next.